Ford made its highly anticipated return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but this time with a twist. Instead of once again reimagining the iconic GT40 like they did previously back in 2016, this time they've brought the Mustang in an attempt to prove that this pony car is a true performance vehicle and can fight toe-to-toe with the top GT machinery on the planet. As we jump on board this Mustang GT3 and sit shotgun with Ben Barker, the nervous anticipation is palpable as the field streams through the Ford chicane and anticipates the green flag. Barker slams the throttle and this 5.4-liter Coyote V8 engine thunders down the front straight, reverberating off the grandstands. Just ahead, the JMW Ferrari is looking for a way past the Manthey Porsche as they stream single file into the Dunlop chicane. We can see smoke up ahead as one of the LMP2s has locked up and the Ferrari is slightly wide. Barker closes in through the right-hander as they go under the Dunlop bridge and sweep their way down the hill into the Forest S's. Ten Voorde pokes his nose to the inside of the Porsche as Barker squeezes the throttle, coming through this fast left-hander before going over this crest and into Tete Rouge, which leads onto the Mulsanne straight. The Ferrari takes a huge amount of apex curve, but Barker is slightly wide. The Aston Martin just behind has a run. Ribeiras pulls to the right, and they go side by side, Ford versus Aston Martin down the Mulsanne straight. This race might only be 1 minute old, but these drivers are fighting just as hard as if it was a one-lap sprint race. The Aston Martin of Ribeiras begins to edge ahead as they make their way into the first chicane. Barker tries to brake late around the outside to hold the position, but he has to concede. As they re-accelerate down the Mulsanne straight though, the Ford is firmly in the draft of the turbocharged Aston Martin. And as this straight continues, we can see that the Ford is inching closer and closer. Barker sweeps past the heart of racing Aston Martin as he sets his focus fully on Malikin in the 92 Porsche just in front, who is looking to the inside of that Ferrari 296, but thinks better of it as they make their way through the second chicane and re-accelerate for the second time down the Mulsanne straight. Although they have added these two chicanes to the Le Mans circuit, it is still very much a top speed dependent track, and the faster you are in a straight line, the better chance you have of winning the race, as Malikin looks to the inside one more time on the JMW Ferrari just ahead. They brake late into the Mulsanne corner, and Barker is hard on the throttle. Malikin is slightly wide in the Porsche just ahead. The Ford is now fully in the draft of that Porsche 992. With the big front end on this Ford, Barker tries to stay in the draft as long as possible before pulling to the left-hand side and using the side draft off that white Manthey Porsche to claw his way up alongside and then past the number 92 car. But as we make our way into Indianapolis, look to the right-hand side because there is that nose of the Porsche one more time. Barker brakes as late as he dare though. The car twitches through the fast right-hander and then into the slow left-hander. He has the position and is up into third place in this number 77 Ford. As they exit Mulsanne corner and begin the long run down to Indianapolis, the Ford versus Ferrari rivalry is once again being rekindled here at Le Mans. Through the fast right-hand sweeper, the Ford is closing in, and that 66 car is just a sitting duck. Barker pulls to the right-hand side as he makes his way past that Ferrari and gives him a hand gesture saying, "Let's catch this class-leading McLaren." And as they break into Mulsanne corner with less than half an hour gone in this race, the 77 car has caught the race-leading number 70 Inception McLaren, a car that we're used to seeing stateside in IMSA. But down the Mulsanne straight, it's a story as old as time. This Ford has the straight line speed when it's in the draft, but the McLaren is just slightly weaving its way down the straight, trying to break the draft from this number 77 car. Into Indianapolis, the McLaren goes to the right-hand side of the road. The Ford pops to the left, but there just isn't enough room as he breaks into fast Indy and through slow Indy falls in behind the number 70 class-leading McLaren. into the slowest corner on the circuit, Arnage, and the Ford closes in but has absolutely nowhere to go as they power out of the slowest corner and make their way into the fast Porsche curbs. Now, it has been a tough start to the season for this Mustang GT3 car, but we can see that here at Le Mans on this long sweeping circuit, this Mustang is tuned absolutely perfectly. Into the Porsche curbs, it's a quick dab of the brakes and right back on the throttle through this fast right-hander. Into the sweeping left-hander, Barker gets close to the wall but leaves a bit of margin. There is still 23 hours left in this Endurance Classic. Through the long right-hander, we can see the car just moving around as he clobbers the curb through Corvette corner and follows the McLaren through the easy flat-out right-left sequence. Now, with just over 40 minutes complete in this race, the McLaren and the Ford both pull to the right-hand side and brake heading into the pit lane. It's an awkward pit entry though as they re-accelerate and slam onto the brakes one more time before hitting the pit lane speed limiter. Schandorf peels his McLaren to the right-hand side with the 77 Ford pulling into his box just behind. It is a routine stop, no tires being changed, just fuel for both these cars, and Barker refires the Mustang up to the pit lane speed limit to once again re-emerge back out on circuit just behind that number 70 McLaren. Through the fast sweeping right-hander, it's a hard brake into this chicane. The McLaren takes a huge amount of curb on both apexes, with the Ford not taking quite as many liberties this early on in the race. Down through this fast sequence into the forced S's, it's just a quick dab of the brakes and a quick downshift before getting right back on the throttle to settle the rear of the car. We can see Barker working that steering wheel as the rear end just slides out through that fast left-hander into Tete Rouge. McLaren takes a huge amount of curb. Barker, once again, just being slightly more gentle with his Mustang GT3. As they head into Mulsanne corner, Barker is piling on the pressure as the McLaren tries to break his draft one more time. Through the fast right-hander, they brake as late as they dare into the slow Mulsanne corner. As they re-accelerate heading down into Indianapolis, a BMW hypercar comes flying past and Schandorf tries to tuck into the draft to get as much help as possible heading down this straight. Barker closes in and the McLaren begins to weave side to side, trying to break the draft and keep this number 70 car up in first position. Barker looks to the right-hand side, but the McLaren defends. Barker looks to go around the outside into Indianapolis, but thinks better of it, brakes early, and settles in behind the number 70 car. Schandorf is not making Barker's life easy, and if he wants the class lead, he is going to have to work for it. Through the second chicane, that McLaren is absolutely on the limit as Schandorf uses all of the road at the apex. With this V8 engine singing in our ears, Schandorf is once again weaving side to side, trying to break the draft as much as possible to keep this number 70 McLaren in the lead. As they head into the second chicane, Schandorf defends his position by moving to the left-hand side. Barker pokes his nose around the outside, but is not able to complete the move as they make their way through the left-right-left chicane and accelerate back on the Mulsanne straight, and this battle continues with Schandorf weaving and Barker trying to find any draft he can to pull him up in front of that number 70 McLaren. As they come over the crest where that Mercedes famously flipped, we can see a blue flag, and on the right-hand side, an LMP2 comes screaming past. The 70 McLaren is slightly compromised into Mulsanne corner, has to brake earlier than he wants to. This might be Barker's best chance as the McLaren slides coming out of the exit. With a few drops of precipitation forming on the windscreen, the 77 car claws its way closer and closer to this McLaren 720S out front. Through the fast right-hand kink, and McLaren goes to the right-hand side, and Barker makes his way past, but now that he's out of the draft of that McLaren, the Ford stops accelerating, and if we look to the right-hand side, there is that number 70 car as they go side by side through fast Indy. Barker tried so hard to get past that number 70 car, but has to fall in line and relinquish the class lead to their IMSA rivals. With another 40 minutes complete, it is time to once again pull into the pit lane, with the 77 chasing that number 70 car. With Schondorf in his pit box, we can see he's being relieved by the team's amateur driver, Brendan Arieb. And if we look to our left-hand side, we can see that the same is happening aboard our Mustang, with the bronze-rated Hardwick now jumping aboard. And as a set of cold tires go aboard, Hardwick prepares for his first stint in this Ford Mustang. Now, we can't see it, but as he exits his pit box, he overtakes the number 70 McLaren and re-accelerates back out on track. Heading into turn 1, it is a venture into the unknown though, with clouds overhead, rain imminent, and on cold tires. Hardwick needs to be careful to make sure that he keeps us forward in one piece. As he exits the chicane, he is delicately on the throttle and is passed by the sister number 88 Ford Mustang, which is driven by pro-rated Olsen, who is on hot tires. Into the Forest S's, and he delicately turns the car in, trying to slowly build up both his confidence and temperature in his tires. Over the crest and into Tete Rouge, and he is passed by 2 hypercars. This first lap is truly a trial by fire for this American driver. As he accelerates down the Mulsanne straight though, he can finally take a deep breath and begin to get comfortable aboard his Ford Mustang. But any comfort and security that he might have built will soon start to go away, because as he enters the Porsche curves, there is precipitation on the windscreen. With this being a 24-hour race, obviously strategy is as important as speed, so choosing if and when to change to rain tires, as well as when to have that bronze driver behind the wheel, will be critical to finishing on the podium. And as Hardwick gingerly exits the Porsche curves, the team decides that the rain will not be hard or long enough for him to switch onto rain tires. So as he makes his way into the Ford chicane and that windshield wiper begins to wag, he will stay to the left-hand side on these dry tires. But just because this is the right strategy doesn't mean it's the easy strategy, and this will be a huge test for this gentleman driver. And as he powers this Ford down the front straight, he now has more experienced drivers chasing him down. As he passes the Cadillac on the pit lane exit, he sweeps through this fast right-hander and breaks into the tight Dunlop chicane. If we look behind though, we can see there is Christopher Mies in the 44 Ford Mustang. Mies sweeps past as they make their way under the Dunlop bridge, and Rahel Frey looks to follow him through, but backs out of it as Hardwick retakes the racing line, but she dives up the inside through the Forest S's to put Ryan Hardwick back to 4th position in class as he makes his way over the crest and into Tete Rouge. He hits the apex curb nicely, uses the curbing on the exit as well, and tries to tuck into the draft of the Lamborghini ahead. But unfortunately for Hardwick, as the stint continues, so does the pressure. Now the 95 McLaren is looking to find a way past, and Hamaguchi brakes late into the second chicane and closes in on the number 77 Mustang, who now has mirrors full of this 95 McLaren. On the exit, Hamaguchi is all over that apex curb, but he drops back in behind the Ford Mustang just for a little bit more draft before popping his nose out once again to pull alongside and then past Ryan Hardwick. Looking back from the McLaren, we can see that the Lexus is following the number 95 through as well, as Hardwick lifts out of the throttle and settles back in 6th position. Caution is the better part of valor aboard this Mustang, and Hardwick is choosing to keep his nose clean for his stint, because that is the job of an amateur driver, not to be the fastest driver in the car, but to be a safe pair of hands to guide this car until the next driver can take over. Fortunately, as the stint continues, the rain relents, and Hardwick begins to build confidence aboard the 77 car. Into the first chicane, he closes in on the number 59 McLaren, the sister car to the one that we just saw. And as they re-accelerate coming out of the first chicane, Hardwick is firmly in the draft of the 720S. He pops to the left-hand side and eases his way up alongside and then past the number 59 car. before he slams on the brakes as they enter a slow zone. 2 hours and 20 minutes after entering the car, Hardwick's stint is complete, and he peels into his pit box to be relieved by the Canadian, Zach Robichon. The plaid-helmeted driver refires his Mustang and exits the pit box as he prepares to bring this number 77 car back up to the front of the LMGT3 field. He burns the rubber as he releases the pit lane speed limiter, trying to put some heat in his fresh tires. Through the sweeping Dunlop curve and into the Dunlop chicane, we can see a gaggle of GT3 cars just in front of this number 77 car. And as he finishes the lap through the Ford chicane, we can see a Ferrari just ahead of Robichon as he thunders through the grandstands one more time. He eases the car all the way to the left-hand side of the road to set up the braking zone for the Dunlop chicane. He brakes as late as he dares, hits that apex curb on the left-hand side, hits the apex on the right, and something breaks. He re-enters the circuit. Maybe it's just a flat tire. Goes through the sweeping right-hander, and the car just understeers. He nearly hits an LMP2 car into the Forest S. And once again, the car just refusing to turn. He nearly takes out that Corvette as the car just refuses to turn. Through Tete Rouge, it is clear that something has broken, but there is no giving up. Robichon pushes as hard as he can to get back to the pit lane. This is the 24 hours of Le Mans. The team has worked tirelessly to get to this point. Robichon enters the pit lane as a Hertz Joda Porsche nearly collects him on the pit lane entry. As Robichon peels into the pit box, the team first refuels the car, but knows that something is drastically wrong with this number 77 car. Robichon is put on the jacks and wheeled back into the garage, just 2 laps into his first stint. A heartbreaking way for the 77 team to be taken out of contention at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But the team did not give up and hustled as hard as they could to get this 77 car back out on track. And sure enough, at 4 o'clock on Sunday, the number 77 car comes through the Ford chicane one last time to take the checkered flag. Now, although the 77 car didn't get the result they wanted, the number 88 was able to finish in 3rd place and grab a podium on debut for the Ford Mustang GT3. Anyways, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching, so much for supporting. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys. And I will see you in the next video.